Hey guys, it's Vince with Mastering the Method, and today we are going to discuss how to spot the knot when it comes to promotional videos or review videos on YouTube. And the reason I'm doing this is because many of you, like myself and like many others, have looked at these videos and used them as reference for either making a purchase or looking up troubleshooting issues you're having with your printer to see if you can navigate through the waters and hopefully solve and rectify whatever problem you're having. Now, many of you already realize YouTube is notorious for having videos from endorsed end users. And you can see as we scroll down, and I just put in Makerbot Method here in the search bar, and as we scroll down, you can see that the third video is none other than another channel, 3D Universe, which is basically breaking down an overview video of the method. Now, this video, just like many of the others, there are some more in depth, there are some less in depth, but what they always do is peruse over basic features of the printer. Whatever the manufacturer highlights is what they tend to cover. They don't go into in-depth views on direct settings to get optimal prints. They don't go into indirect views on looking at the details surrounding perfect printing with that model printer. That's not what they're endorsed to do. They're endorsed to show the printer in a fashion that makes it appealing to the masses, to market to the masses. And unfortunately, it happens to all of us. So understanding that, if you're just looking at this printer or any other object on YouTube under those pretenses, will make you much smarter in making the right choice. Now that I've said that, as we scroll down, and you do find other videos like this, and like you've read everywhere, including Reddit and different posts about the Method X and the method, I'm going to cover this video because this one is really interesting to cover, especially on the topic I'm discussing. Just to clarify, robotics, unlike other end-user type products, are totally different in the fact that every individual will get different results based on the knowledge they have prior to using it. Now that sounds obvious. However, as an engineer, I can tell you it's not. And a lot of times, end users will purchase a product in this field and think that it's a base level model and super easy to understand, and someone's going to walk them through every detail of using that unit in terms of an end user's manual and covering in great detail, if you're having this problem, we figured this out. If we had that problem, we figured this out. This is not the case with 3D printers and other production robots. My other channel is Corvette Guy 50, and I manufacture CNC control systems. I'll put a link in the description. You can check out that channel. But just so everyone knows, I deal mainly with, aside from building, the majority of my time is spent with support. Why? Because end users come from all different fields, and everybody's knowledge is different. And the thing is, what I feel really makes engineering interesting is, it's not when you buy a device and you turn it on and everything is working great that really shows your skill. It's when you buy a device and everything is not working great, and you're able to devise a troubleshooting system around it to figure it out. Now, with CNC routers, CNC mills, different types of production robots in my field, you don't get end user manuals. You don't get a lot of documentation. A lot of stuff comes from overseas. Therefore, basically an end user has to understand the premise of what they're getting involved with to some degree to really get to a certain next level. Well, with 3D printing, we don't always see that. Usually what we see now is a lot of turnkey systems, or at least they're projected to be turnkey, and end users see that and immediately want to purchase it thinking they're going to get, perfect results right out of the box. And of course, manufacturers, they don't do themselves any justice by projecting that picture as well. However, anyone who's dealt with 3D printing realize you usually have to go through hell to get to heaven, so to speak, because you will encounter problems. It's not if, it's when. And you must develop a process to solve them. And that's what dictates your skill set in this field. That's what makes you grow as an end user in terms of whether you're an engineer, whether you're whatever this new term maker, whatever you want to call yourself. That's what's going to make you grow. Needless to say, we see lots of reviews like this where it says here, it just shows Makerbot Method X review. We're going to cover this review together, and I want to cover some things in this review.
Grammarly
because,
Go.
Of course, what we see being done in this review is what's typically done when an end user purchases a production robot and doesn't show competence in using it. And why I'm saying that, I'm not saying it to be mean, but I'm saying it because what's defined in this video really reflects what this person knows about this genre, because you're going to see things that are going to draw questions in your mind, as they did mine, and make you really wonder, why would you mess with this piece of equipment just seeing what's being actually filmed on this video? So we'll skip this ad and we'll go right to it.
Hi, I just wanted to show you a little bit about our Makerbot Method X and some of the technical issues we're having with it. So, first of all,
let's cover the build plate. Any person, I don't care who they are, that's just getting involved with 3D printing, let alone buying a $6,000 plus printer as the Method was when it first came out, you have to admit this is completely ridiculous. And I don't care if you're a novice, I don't care if you've never touched a 3D printer, this does not even remotely look correct. To take into account that this end user is actually filming this and putting this portion in the video of the build plate in that condition really baffles me, and as it should you, but it should tell you a little more of who you're dealing with. Let's hit play.
we have problems with bed adhesion and layer alignment due to...
Gotta admit, it's comical. He says he has problems with bed adhesion and print alignment looking at the build plate in that condition.
The bed not being very steady, so when it moves up and down...
Now, we don't know what environment he's in. Is this his professional business? Is this his basement? We don't know who this is yet, but I want you guys to take notes on that and really think about it, because as the video goes on, we'll find out who he is. And this what we're seeing here, I think will be really enlightened to the fact of what environment he is in and what variables play into account in what could cause what he's showing.
It shakes, and then you get bad layer alignment and also bad adhesion. So also when it goes up and down, the drive motors are on this side and the bearings are on this side. And so when it goes up, it actually tilts up a little bit as it goes, and then goes back down a little bit as it goes down. So that causes issues as well.
Now, once again, we'll follow the video. Once he discusses what environment he's in, we'll discuss a possible variable that could be a cause of exactly what he's discussing.
As far as the printer head goes, the printer heads in here are kind of tough to deal with because you have to unload your filament before taking on the printer head. This kind of prevents it from coming out.
Now, guys, again, knowledge is power. What he's saying makes no sense, because realistically on any 3D printer, to unload a print head, as he said, which is actually an extruder, you would have to remove the filament to remove the extruder. I don't know what he's trying to make a point of here. Again, anyone who owns a Method will tell you taking the extruder out is just as designed. It's very straightforward and simple.
That takes some time. We have lots of jamming issues, so much so that Makerbot has even included a setting where you have to turn off your jam detection.
First of all, Makerbot did not include this setting for that capacity. They've included this setting due to the fact that it was built into their firmware when you're using third-party materials. And realistically speaking, you should never have to use this setting. What it's telling us is, once again, we have an end user who's identifying he's having jamming issues. What have you done to formulate a process to rectify it? Or are you able to do that? Here's my projection. I believe you purchased a high-end, non-basic 3D printer that's not designed for off-the-shelf use. you lack the competency to use this printer, you lack the competency to troubleshoot this printer, and therefore it's easier to post a video berating the hardware because you don't understand it. And we'll see that more as we go through. But what's truly interesting is as we go through this video, and you find out, as I said, what environment it's in, we're also going to find out this person's background. And then I want you guys to think about, did he purchase this printer understanding all of the genre he was getting involved with true engineering type device? Did Makerbot project a fair image of what this printer is to an end user? I don't feel they have. And what I mean to say by that is I think they should have really stated that this is not an off-the-shelf, ready-to-print model, which, of course, they self-proclaim it to be. Now, if he would have said that, I would have totally agreed with that. And as he goes through and explains about their support, I totally agree with him on that. Makerbot support it definitely needs to be upgraded. Hopefully we'll see that in the future. However, if you're buying a 3D printer of this capacity and expecting it to be hands-off completely, and the only thing you should have to do is read the end user manual or whatever short little bundled instructions it comes with to give you a perfect print, do not buy it. It's that simple, because there is no 3D printer I've seen on the market, let alone this, like it in this genre. What you're talking about is an engineering grade printer. If you're buying a Prusa or something where, again, it's less intrusive as far as many details that have been built in, these are things you can get by with. The less details you have to work with, the easier it is to understand the hardware you're working with. There's still a lot of moving pieces, guys. So keep that in mind. Let's watch the rest of the video and you guys make your own assessment.
In your extruder, it only works for this type of extruder. We have jams on other extruders where it doesn't work and causes more problems.
And the reason they've only allocated it once again to a labs extruder, if you understand the method, is because the labs extruder prints third-party materials. So they wanted the maximum amount of flexibility for this particular extruder. Okay, he's trying to act like he understands the reasoning behind the company, and he really doesn't understand the engineering behind why they've included this feature only with the labs extruder.
But it's kind of a faulty sensor, and they put in this as a fix.
Okay, that's a blatant lie. Again, I don't know how else to say it. Somebody trying to sound more intelligent than they are. That's not why they've included it with this extruder. Once again, I've covered why they've included it with this extruder.
Temporary fix to fix that. Also, the extruders are extremely hard to take apart. This is one extruder we have.
Now, these extruders are extremely hard to take apart. On my other channel, Corvette Guy 50, I'm going to put a link. I've already shown how to dismantle this extruder and service it and actually convert any extruder into the experimental model. What's really funny is he says it takes, as we go through this video, 40 minutes for him to disassemble this extruder, which is completely ridiculous, except by the fact that you wouldn't have the knowledge around what you're working with. Now, am I saying that ambiguously? No. If we look at the tip of this extruder, does this even remotely look like somebody who knows and understands 3D printing? I'm going to blow the video up. Look at the nozzle. Look at the amount of filament and debris on this nozzle. This tells you this individual left this like this, once again, to film it and then degrade the component that he's filming. I don't need to say much more than that. I think this really reflects the competence in which we're dealing with.
Had one jam up the first time I used it, and it took about 40 minutes to disassemble, so it was very hard to fix the problem if it does have a problem. That was an issue. The touch screen isn't always so sensitive. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if it's temperature variable or what, but the screen is really frustrating when it doesn't work correctly. We have about 10.
I don't know anything about the touch screen not working, but again, you'll see as this video goes on, we have an individual here who is trying to paint the picture the hardware is at fault. Let's watch.
And Makerbot support tickets that we've done in the past 5 months with this machine. So much so that they sent us another machine
Now, guys, I want you to think about this for a minute. And I agree with him to a degree on Makerbot support. I've said this previously. Makerbot support is horrible. They are not having engineers contact you. When I say engineers, people who are working with this printer day in, day out, who've designed it, and contacting you to rectify the issues with it. Why? Because that takes too much money. I'm just telling you facts. Okay, what they have is salespeople who will reach out, see if there's a part that they can replace, and they do. In this case, they sent this individual an entire printer. I want you to think about that for a minute. Have you ever received something of that value from a company? I know I haven't. And I can tell you right now, that makes me once again draw your attention to who is this person? Because, and what environment is he in? Because to get another printer to test after seeing what he did to the previous printer in this video is pretty scary. So to say that they didn't answer any of his tickets, first of all, we know that's not completely true because he wouldn't have received another printer. But I do agree with him. They do not offer the support and hand-holding and training that one would expect if they're projecting that this printer is supposed to be for anybody. And I think that's where Makerbot really dropped the ball in explaining this is an engineering printer. It requires some engineering knowledge. It certainly is not for a novice. And it would have made the learning curve much easier for those trying to learn it. Let's watch.
This machine doesn't have all the exact same problems as the other one, but very similar. We have to send this back to them. They said you can test this out just to see if you can figure out what the problems are, but we'll be sending back both printers.
Okay, so the odds of you receiving two robots of the same manufacturing type and having the exact same issues, whether he's saying they're not all exact, it's doing basically the same thing, do we really believe that? I mean, what is the odds of that? And I could tell you because I manufacture them. At least the controllers. I don't do the entire robot, but the controller controls everything. So I can tell you right now, you may have a motor go, you may have a component go. The failure rate on these components are very, very, very low. What really is the largest variable, and I've said this numerous times in past videos on my channel, is that it is definitely end-user induced competence. Because if you don't know what you're doing, it's very easy for you to encounter the same problems if you're not formulating a process to rectify and analyze those problems. Especially when there's no end-user manual. Especially when you're not going to go on YouTube and find a direct correlation to, oh my God, here's the problem I'm having. It doesn't happen. Okay, these review videos that we've seen, they don't cover anything what I'm discussing. If you look at my channel that I've just designed, nothing in those videos really discusses this printer at this level because they don't know. They're not looking at it like that. So keep that in mind.
Because we've had just multiple issues with these printers. So also, I went online to look at a review. I had put for Makerbot.
Now, the only reason an end user like this would put a review for Makerbot in the capacity at which he's experienced is because he wants to berate the company for whatever reason that is. Now, if he was to put the review and say they just do not support a printer in an engineering field, I would agree with that. They don't offer the support that they should with a printer of this caliber. I totally agree with that. What I disagree with is somebody who's already projected in this video his knowledge based on the pictures he's shown of the extruder, of the print bed, and then not even explaining yet what he's printing in as far as environment, and then going on and berating a company. That's not fair. That's not a real fair review. And that's what we see, unfortunately, done a lot. An end user buys a robot or a production machine, and they don't know how to use it, and therefore, because they don't know how to use it, they try to project their feelings onto other people in the sense that, hey, I don't know how to use it, you're going to get the same results. And unfortunately, that is not the case. I've been in this genre now for 15 years, and I can tell you, people with this printer have great success who understand it. People who don't understand it, this is what you're getting. It's no different than anything else. You can give him another 3D printer, he'll get impeccable results. And we'll hear that later on. I'm going to fast forward this because no one cares about what review he's leaving a company. But I do want to cover the environment that he's in because I promised you guys that. We're just going to, okay, here we go. Let's play from here.
In fact, yesterday, me and the tech team spent about 2 hours just trying to connect to the internet because we're having some connectivity issues. It just wouldn't connect right and stay connected and wouldn't authenticate. And after about 2 hours with two tech people,
Two tech people in 2 hours and this guy, and they couldn't figure out how to get it connected. Once again, he's trying to project it's the printer's fault until we know the environment he's in. And we all know Ethernet is all based on the environment, the router, the service you're using. There's so many variables there. But let's listen. Let's listen carefully on the
gave up and then connected it USB because that's the only way the printer would actually work. So I would highly advise not getting and continuing with Makerbot. The previous Replicator Plus, had many issues with their printer heads jamming. We actually had 3 printer heads just around one machine, and those printer heads cost about $250 a piece, I believe. I can check that, but Makerbot's not doing very good as far as a company. They got bought out by another company in 2013, and they came out with this new printer, and is not a great printer. So that's my review of it. Hope you guys can find a printer that works for you. I highly recommend some other brands out there, such as Dremel. They make a really solid machine that I used on previous school. Ultimate.
Did you guys hear what he just said? Let's listen carefully. Let's go right here.
Such as Dremel. They make a really solid machine that I used on previous school.
Did you hear it? He's a school. And it's really interesting that he brings up Dremel, because Dremel is a tool company that's essentially producing an off-the-shelf printer that's based on no end-user knowledge. They wanted to make a very simple printer that anyone can use. So this guy probably bought that and seen how easy it is to use, because it's not an engineering-grade printer. It's an off-the-shelf printer based on, novices getting involved with this genre of production, and it was much easier to use. And it is. It totally is. He's absolutely right. But now we know he's in a school platform. So as earlier I stated, looking at the problems with the print bed, where he wobbled it and said there was problems there, and then the build plate, let me ask you a more plausible thing. Isn't it very possible that students that he was in control of were playing with this printer? And of course, being an observant person as he is, he may not have seen everything that those students were doing, and perhaps one of them or two of them maybe damaged the printer, or at least did something wrong with glue sticks to make the print bed look that way. And then this could also be a direct correlation to the problems he's having. I'm just asking a logical question. I mean, are we to believe that, maybe he's an engineering teacher of some sort? Because I'm not understanding how the printer, not one, but two, would give him such trouble. Well, now that we've seen basically the whole video, and we'll exit out of here, I want you guys to do a little more homework as I have. And these videos that pop up, I'm going to click on it, and we can learn more about them. And then there's a video here that says teaching measurement. Let's see exactly what his background is.
First started teaching woodshop.
Did you hear it?
But actually, when I first started teaching woodshop.
When he first started teaching woodshop. I'll play it one more time.
But actually, when I first started teaching woodshop.
But actually, when I first started teaching woodshop. Now, I'm not putting anybody down as far as their career choice. But I'm not a roofer. And I'm not going to pretend to be a roofer. I'm not going to pretend to know about roofing, because I know where my limits are. I know where my capabilities are. And I know what I've studied And what I find interesting about this is when you look at videos like this, he never made anyone aware that he teaches woodshop in that video. He never made anyone aware of that. Makerbot probably knew they were dealing with a school, and that's why they probably sent them another printer. That's why you and I would never get a printer if we contacted them for support. That's not a normal thing, and we've just defined why that is. But see, if you're not smart enough to click on this guy's profile and go through his other videos to find out exactly what his background is, and I was lucky enough to do it with the couple videos that he's listed, you can see now this individual is speaking as a woodshop teacher. And I ask all of you, do you feel that his background, and I'm not putting him down, but his background reflects that of somebody who has the knowledge to use this printer in a capacity to teach others with? Because I'm sorry, I just don't see it. And I'm just being honest with you. Doing any type of troubleshooting requires a direct process formulation. This individual has not reflected anything he's done in that video except to berate the company. He hasn't said, you know, I've tried this, I went through this step, this process, I broke down temperatures, I broke down drying my filament, I broke down going through and reading hygrometer readings within the sensor info, I broke down going through assisted leveling, I broke down going through recalibrating extruders. None of this was covered. Yet, he brings up every problem that he had. It's very interesting. And I'm telling you guys, these are the kind of things we see with these type of robots. I see it all the time. I have no affiliation whatsoever with Makerbot. As a matter of fact, I even purchased the extended support program through Makerbot. I believe it was their Platinum Edition. And I got a refund on it because I was not getting support either. But at that point, I formulated my process that I use with my routers the same way, and I work with this printer, and I figured a lot out because I worked with what the printer was telling me. And the only way you learn stuff like that is because you've dealt with it before. This person, and I'm telling you right now, when you compare the method to a Dremel, there is a huge disparity there. And I'm not saying just the quality of the printer. I'm saying that the type of printer you're working with is totally different. And that's where I think a lot of these end users think, hey, I've played around with printers before to some degree, and you know what acceptable print they have at some degree they're okay with, and they assume that they can just take all that knowledge and it's going to be applicable to another printer. It's not always the case. Each animal has its own feeding schedule, so to speak. And that's exactly what we deal with the method. If you're not willing to invest the time to learn it, then the real issue is being careful enough to watch out from individuals like this who try to sway you on them portraying, oh, this printer's a piece of crap. And what really ends up happening is you find out he's never formulated a process to identify anything other than the problems he's had. A project solution in terms of going through creating a fishbone theory and breaking it down step by step to figure out, well, what change do I make here to see a difference in the printing? He did nothing because he would have put it in that video. It would make no sense to do any of that video without actually breaking it down if you want to do an unbiased video and really cover everything in detail. So again, this video is long, but I feel it's very necessary because this is the type of environment we live in where, again, accountability and user accountability is becoming rarer and rarer for some reason. It's no longer acceptable to say, like I just did, I don't put roofs on, therefore I don't understand roofing. I don't want to understand roofing. I can say that and still feel proud of myself. It's fine with me. But you have individuals that want to be in the DIY field that feel that, you know, DIY means I'm an expert. If I buy this object and I can't figure it out, I'm automatically not at fault. It's the equipment. So guys, be careful. The method is certainly not for everyone, but I'll tell you this right now. If you're willing to put the effort in and take your time to learn, use my videos. I'm giving you free knowledge. Test what I say. Because who am I? Screw me, I'm just a voice online. But test what I say. And you'll see it's really more up to the end user's ability to put that process together and really work with the hardware they have, and that's what's going to actually dictate the finished result of what you're producing. Thank you all for your support. I hope the video has been helpful. Take care.